it was very easy for people to find out who the real Martha is because the actress that they picked was also quite similar to the real life Martha. Where is the level of care of Netflix on trying to protect the identity? He, in a way, played a part on the obsession of the lady. Hey there, Zesties. You're tuning in to the Gleeful Talk Show, where we share zesty stories to cultivate the happiness and hero within and out. On the show, we talk about personal development and experiences, society, and culture. So if these are the topics that you're interested in, then please stay tuned. With over 56 million views since it premiered, debuted at number 5 on Netflix weekly top 10 with 10.4 million hours viewed, Baby Reindeer has become a global phenomenon, to the point that internet sleuths have found the real-life stalker where the show is based on. So yes, Zesties, today's episode is going to be about Baby Reindeer, and it's not going to be solely as a review of the show, but we are also going to talk about the topics that it touches on, as well as the controversy that revolves around it. So, for those who haven't watched Baby Reindeer, this show tells the true story of an aspiring comedian who grapples with trauma and stalked by a woman whom he meets at the bar. It's an unflinching look at grief that'll make you both laugh and cry. And for some people, they cannot really watch the whole series because it's a little bit dark, even though it is considered as comedy. And I've known some people who couldn't watch through or couldn't sit through the whole show because of the topics that it discussed, or, it's just not their cup of tea. And I myself, I even didn't watch it right away when I saw it on Netflix. It just so happened that one day I didn't have anything to watch, and I just tried to watch it, and I think it was under 40 minutes per episode. That's why I was able to sit through the first episode, and then I continued on the next. And this one I didn't really binge watch, but the first 2 episodes I was able to, but I stopped somewhere through for some time just because of how heavy the show has tackled on some topics. And I wasn't in the right mindset to watch it, but eventually I was able to finish through. So yes, what a hell of a show. And I think what really pulled me into it is that because it is a true story, more on that later in a sense of the controversy, but yes, it is based on a true story, let's say. And that's why it has captured the whole world because of this story. Like you couldn't really imagine that this thing would happen in real life, right? And I have to say that it's kind of a niche type of topic that they delved into, which also kind of propelled me to it. So they did delve into several thought-provoking themes on the show, which are mental health and trauma. The show explores the impact of trauma on mental health. It portrays the struggles of the protagonist, an aspiring comedian, as he grapples with past experiences. And it also tackled stalking and obsession, which is, again, everyone's obsessed about this. The series sheds light on the unsettling dynamics of stalking and obsession. The woman the protagonist meets at a bar becomes fixated on him, leading to a disturbing and intense relationship. And the question is it only her who is obsessed with him? The third one is grief and coping mechanisms. Through humor and vulnerability, Baby Reindeer examines grief and various coping mechanisms. It shows how people navigate loss and emotional pain. The fourth one is power imbalance. The power dynamics between the characters highlight broader societal issues. It underscores how power imbalances can affect relationships and personal well-being. And the fifth one I'd say is authenticity and identity. The protagonist's journey involves questioning his own identity and authenticity. The show prompts viewers to reflect on their own sense of self. And what I liked about it is that it shows the nuances of human behavior, of human relationships, of human understanding of themselves as well, because it's not black or white. You can be in between. So that's the good thing in a sense that the show have showed its audience. But before we dig deeper on those themes, I wanted to talk about the show itself and how I feel about the show. So yes, the story I'd say is very niche, which I'd say is captivating, but sometimes also, might not be your cup of tea because it is comedy, but it's not really funny in a way. It's like dark comedy. And the story is also quite unique in a sense that I think in the first two episodes or first three episodes, they did say this is a true story, which is different from this is based on a true story or inspired by true events. If you are a viewer, you will see that notion that this is a true story. You would think that is this a documentary or something? But it's actually a drama about real life events. But there are some controversies that we're going to talk about later. But yes, the story to me is quite unique in a sense. There are a lot of stalking stories out there like You from Netflix, which is based on a book, but that one is not real. I as far as I know. And it's too like more on killing and stuff. But this one is more like nuanced. It's not like someone is bad, someone is, well, some people are bad there, but in a sense that the protagonist and the main antagonist, or there's no antagonist at all, like, so it's not black or white. Of course, the cast, impressive. The main character is the writer and the person who actually experienced these things. And really, the Martha, which is the stalker on this story, who is played by an actress who is so skilled that sometimes you would think that is she the real stalker? Like she played it really well, including the accent, the mannerisms. And why I would know this? Because I saw the real stalker online. So we're going to talk about that later on as well. So yes, and then the acting as well. I'm quite impressed in a sense that the main actor, Richard Gadd, who is a writer and who kind of gone through this whole ordeal, was able to show the audience the different emotions. I'd say he's not really an actor by trade initially. He is a comedian, although part of that show that he did go to drama classes. But I guess I would say maybe debut in the acting world. I know he did some skits around Baby Reindeer as part of his comical skits in the UK and such, but this one is like the first, series that he has as far as I know. And yes, superb acting by the cast. And I think the Martha on the show should win an Emmy, I'd say. She's really good at it. And then there is controversy I kept mentioning earlier because I've only learned about this controversy when I was kind of researching about Baby Reindeer after watching the whole show because apparently the internet sleuths have found who the real life Martha is through, of course, stalking in Twitter or X and, finding out her Facebook posts, etc. I mean, who has the time to find these things? But apparently a lot of people have time. So they were able to figure out and call out that lady, the real life Martha. I think her name was Fiona Harvey. And now the Daily Mail has come and interviewed her. But the thing is, I actually didn't know until she went to a Piers Morgan show on YouTube and kind of outed herself when saying that she is the real life Martha on the show. And the funny thing is, she said that she is the real life Martha, but the events that happened on the show aren't entirely true. She was saying that Richard Gadd was delusional, he was making stuff up, although some things there might be right, like how, the baby reindeer is actually coined from her toy when she was a child. And she described Richard Gadd to be like that toy because it's cute. So that part was actually true. And also on the show I don't want to reveal too much, but actually even though I reveal something now, like some bits and pieces, I think you should still watch the show because of the nuances that it provides. But the show kind of like kept tabs on how many emails, voicemails, letters, and calls or texts that she sent to Richard Gadd. But she said that like, oh, I didn't send a lot of tweets. I only tweeted him 18 times. And she was saying also that they were just friends and she only met him thrice or twice at that bar. And it's I don't know what to think personally, in a sense that whether Netflix has fictionalized it too much or whether she's lying. We never know the truth, right? Although I have to say, I don't think that Richard Gadd or Netflix would have provided the exact amount of voicemails, text messages, tweets, Facebook messages, emails, etc. I mean, because on the show they were quite specific about it. And I feel that this is just me theorizing that maybe it's true. Maybe there are like 106 voicemails or whatnot. I can't keep the tabs here, but I might put it on the show notes. But yes, she said that it's not true, that she didn't send a lot. She only sent a few. So who knows? But that's one controversy there. Another controversy was that because Netflix has marketed the show as this is a true story, it's not like based on a true story or based on real life events or inspired by real life events. Because if it would have shown as like that, especially in the opening scene, then people would kind of know that this is dramatized or fictionalized in some way, shape, or form. However, Netflix has an opening credits have shown there that this is a true story. And that's why like people, especially me, who when I first watched the first episode, I was also very intrigued because this is a true story, right? It's not, there are a lot of movies, and I saw some people say it. Fargo also does that, showing this is a true story. I don't know Fargo, but one of my friends, I think that is one of his favorite shows. I haven't watched it, but hopefully I can watch it sometime soon. But then, yes, there are movies, series that are saying this is based on a true story, but only few say that this is a true story. So there is kind of a difference there in a way on how their audience would receive it. However, again, there was such a funny thing out here because there was a debate in the Piers Morgan show, an episode after the real life Martha went on the show. And they were debating about that Netflix is saying that this is a true story and they marketed it as such. And actually, in the ending credits, no one knew in that panel. Only one lady said that there was actually in the ending credits that this show, some of the parts are fictionalized, something like that. But I myself didn't even notice because, as you know, Zesties, when you watch Netflix, when the last scene of the episode is up, it usually goes directly to the next episode, right? You don't really watch until the end of the credits. However, Netflix was able to cover their ass that some parts are fictionalized. However, in the opening credits, they say that this is a true story. So I feel like some of the audience might have been misled as well because there are actually key parts of the show that didn't happen in real life, and it's just how Richard Gadd, or the writer, wanted to do a bit of closure on it. So that's the thing. And people were now like thinking that this is a convicted stalker, which the show has depicted. However, it seemed to look like that in real life she isn't. And apparently, Richard Gadd was also saying on his interviews that she isn't a convicted stalker, but they just played it on the show as such to have more closure. And I guess maybe this is just me theorizing that maybe they wanted to show like that so that the audience will not think that stalking doesn't have any implication or stalking doesn't have any bad impact on the person who has committed it. So, but yes, that huge element in the story is actually or could be fictionalized, which some people might have led to believe that it is true. So I think there is a pending case on Netflix. I heard one of the lawyers in the Piers Morgan show said that they're looking into it because Netflix could be sued because of this kind of being misleading, and also the controversy that Netflix has, well, quote unquote, they tried to hide the real identity of the people on the, depicted on the show. However, it was very easy for people to find out who the real Martha is because the actress that they picked was also quite similar to the real life Martha. So people are saying that where is the level of care or the prudence of Netflix on trying to protect the identity of the real life characters here? And again, there are several opinions online on this, which is quite interesting to see and to read. And I would keep you posted, Zesties, on this controversy if there are any updates. However, if you would like to chime in or if you have more info about this, please do comment on the podcast on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or on YouTube so that we would know also if there are any updates. So yes, those are the controversies of the show. And now let's dig deeper into the thought-provoking societal themes that I've mentioned earlier. So yes, mental health and trauma. So this is quite interesting because you can see the irony of being a comedian here. Being a comedian, you make people laugh, you make yourself funny in front of people, but actually you're hurting inside. I can see the irony there. And the trauma as well of, oh my God, there's a lot of trauma that the character has experienced here. If I have to say, like, there are graphic scenes of physical abuse and the theme of, men can be physically abused too or be raped as well. Let's say, to be very blunt about it. And you don't see that often depicted in series or shows or movies, but this really showed that, and apparently, and of course, this is real life, right? So seeing that provides a whole new perspective of rape. And I feel that maybe some men just don't know that it's rape already as well, especially as younger kids who are groomed. They don't know that it's actually a rape. So we don't know the statistics of, rape in the whole world. And people are commenting on the internet as well that, oh, it only takes a man to be raped to spark public outrage. I kind of disagree on this one. It's just that people were just surprised in a way that of how things unfold. But I don't think that men being raped only can spark public outrage. I think rape in general has sparked public outrage anyway. And of course, especially women, because women are much more vulnerable in a sense. However, again, this show showed us that this thing can happen to any gender, basically. So it really delves into that, and it's such a sad scene. I don't want to graphically describe it, but it was a bit too hard to watch as well because there were a lot of things. It's a lot to unpack there. And if you need support as a person, please find the right people as well, because some people might show support, but there might be a caveat on that, So if you need support mentally, emotionally, please do especially reach out to the people you trust more, the people who knows you better. Like, let's say your parents, or if you don't have parents, or your friends. And it takes a level of bravery and vulnerability to be able to tell those people, but better to be with those people than the wrong people who will actually abuse you, right? The next theme is stalking and obsession. So from a simple cup of tea, your whole world changed. This is kind of like the premise of Baby Reindeer. And I like that the actor, writer, the protagonist is quite honest in showing that he has, in a way, played a part on the obsession of the lady towards him, in a sense that he liked the attention. He was quite honest about that because no one paid him a lot of attention and then this lady paid him attention, it kind of like became that toxic relationship that they were feeding each other's attention. So I'd say maybe he has some narcissistic tendencies, or perhaps because he's lacking that kind of attention, right? He didn't have that much friends. He needed support, and he's in a new city in London because I think he's from Scotland. So, and one person showed this interest on him. despite him not being emotionally available or not even liking this person, but they just want that attention because no one was able to provide it to them. So, yes, it's good that he was quite honest about that. And also, we're going to talk about later about authenticity. But I guess for me, it's really understanding yourself as well. But it is a journey, I'd say. So, it's not also an easy feat. The next one is grief and coping mechanisms. So, Baby Reindeer delves into complex psychological themes related to grief and coping mechanisms, particularly in the context of abusive relationships and trauma. So, there is balancing attachment and authenticity. The show presents a conflict between these fundamental needs. So, attachment. As infants, we instinctively seek connection and interdependencies with caregivers. And authenticity, sometimes our authentic impulses conflict with attachment needs. We may prioritize attachment even when it's harmful. So Donnie, the main character, grapples with abusive relationships, questioning why he continues to engage with his stalker and an abusive groomer. And there is also negative attachment and loss of agency. Those with negative early attachments may lose their sense of agency or options in attachment situations. They become highly attuned to accommodating the attachment under the other person's terms, often tolerating bad behavior. A common core belief is, I am responsible for other people's feelings, leading to self sacrificing behavior and vulnerability to abuse. And of course, sexual abuse and manipulation. So, Donnie's story highlights the subtleties of grooming by abusers. They take time to befriend their victims and earn their trust. That's what I was talking about earlier about the, support. Like people might show their support, but are they pure in their support? Could you trust them? The show portrays the chilling complexities of layered trauma as Donnie processes sexual abuse inflicted by a trusted mentor from the comedy world. And stalking and vulnerability. Donnie, the struggling Scottish comedian, faces stalking by Martha. The series reflects the realities of stalking, emphasizing vulnerability and the impact on mental health. And it courageously explores the intersection of attachment, authenticity, trauma, and coping mechanisms, providing us, the viewers, with a raw and thought provoking narrative. And in Baby Reindeer as well, the power imbalance is one of the central themes, particularly in the relationship between Donnie, the struggling comedian, and Martha, his stalker, as well as the abusive groomer. So let's delve into Martha. Martha's obsession, it looks like, based on my research, one of the psychologists said that she exhibits erotomania, a delusional disorder, where she believes that Donnie, someone of higher status, is in love with her. And despite evidence to the contrary, her belief persists. For instance, Donnie reportedly tells her they're only friends, yet she clings to their romantic illusion. And she also exhibits borderline personality traits based on my research from a psychologist who was interviewed on one of the shows, I think at Today America. Martha's behavior toward Donnie involves splitting, alternating between idealizing and devaluing him. This emotional instability is characteristic of borderline personality disorder, and the power imbalance intensifies as Martha's obsession drives her actions. And Donnie's role also kind of like Donnie unwittingly reinforces the power imbalance by inadvertently encouraging Martha's fixation. His vulnerability and the need for connection allow her to maintain control over their interactions. And also, there is also power imbalance with the groomer as well, because Donnie looked up to this guy and he thought that he will make his dreams come true of being in Hollywood and, the gateway to his dreams. And of course, it took time because there was a part there that he was supporting him in his show on that bar. And whenever he's around, a lot of people come on his show. And that built up Donnie's reverence to him, or like looking up at him as his mentor. And that's why once that trust has been built, then he was able to kind of manipulate him and groom him. And because Donnie is already wrapped around in his finger, and Donnie was like this little puppy who follows that person around, the power imbalance is tipped towards that person. And Donnie just do whatever he says despite him knowing that it was wrong. So what a very strong message actually. And that's why I think the people watching this, you can really have a lot of takeaway from the show. I know it's gonna be hard to watch on some of the scenes especially, but there are a lot of thought-provoking themes that you can take away and at least reflect on as well. And of course, authenticity and identity. He grapples on the fact of not knowing who he is, what is his sexual orientation, whether it was as a result of the grooming or what it was there before, but then the grooming kind of uprooted it. So we never know. And he didn't know as well. And there was one point in the show that eventually he realized that accepting himself is the only way to go. So, accepting himself, being vulnerable towards the closest people in his life, like his parents, accepting and acknowledging despite not fully understanding it was the key for his healing, I'd say. And again, even though he was, healed or he understood himself, there was a part that he still went back to his groomer, which is so sad. So yes, this show a lot of powerful themes that you can take away from. Again, this show, you need to watch it with a certain mindset because it can be very dark in a sense of the topics that it discusses, but not in a sense that it's like killing and stuff, but you know what I mean? Like it's just how is the deepness of human behavior, human emotions. And I think the Baby Reindeer has showed that very eloquently, except for like those kind of like controversy I mentioned about, saying that it is a true story, but some of it was fictionalized. But I think this is really a good show to watch when you are in a certain type of mindset. And this is not for everyone as well. I think you should watch it when maybe some people who are quite old enough, and maybe for those people who are quite old enough, they can take away those lessons and then maybe give advice to the younger ones rather than the younger ones watching it directly from the show. So yes, there you have it, Zesties. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Let me know what you think about Baby Reindeer. And let me know what you think about the episode on the comments down below on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you would like to support the podcast, please do share to your friends or social media or rate the podcast on your favorite podcasting platform and follow us on our social media platform as well. And again, thank you so much for our patrons for keeping the podcast alive. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I hope, Zesties, that you have some takeaways on this episode. And please let me know if you have episode suggestions and email to gleefultalkshow@gmail.com. If you'd like to give me a hot or cold beverage, please head down to the episode notes to find out how. And I'll see you next time. Bye!